Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets of New York.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel and on X. And what a difference a week makes, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Mets that were spiraling out of control coming out of Pittsburgh, losing 30-4 in the series by runs scored. And they come back home. They win a series against the Brewers, winning the final 2 games of the series. Win the first 2 of the Subway Series at CitiField. The difference of this Mets team is the fact that the offense is finally dominating a series. That is the difference, and I think that is the reason why Met fans are so excited, right? It's always fun to beat the Yankees, right? Just like the Yankee fans who would never admit it, but they love to beat the Mets. Yes, it's fun beating the Yankees, but it's so much bigger than that. And that's why when people look around X, look around social media, people aren't, going crazy. Oh, we beat the Yankees. Like the Yankees were acting like they won the World Series back in May when they, or last month in May, I think it was, right? When they beat us 2 out of 3 in the Bronx. The fact of the matter is, it's much bigger than the Subway Series. We wanted to see this, and I was talking about this over the last couple of pre-games, is that the fact that we need to stack W's. We need to start winning again. We need to show signs of life. Has nothing to do with the Yankees. It has everything to do with the team we're facing on that day. That's all that actually matters, and that is what Met fans have been talking about on X, right? It's just icing on the cake that it's against the Yankees, but we needed to see this. Every guy at the top of the order that we've been talking about, they need to start playing offensively together as a core. That has happened. Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, and for the heck of it, Jeff McNeil. Those were the guys that we needed to do what they have been doing over the last 4 games, is to be a collective offense as a core. This team has won because of that core dominating the series offensively. And that's what happened, right? With the beatdown of the New York Yankees yesterday, 12-6, as it was basically exactly what we needed from the New York Mets. Because, again, we didn't have the pitching matchup yesterday, even though Frankie Montas pitched damn good. we don't have the pitching matchup today. We didn't have the pitching matchup on Friday. But the fact of the matter is, the New York Mets are playing as a cohesive unit. That is something that we haven't talked about, or we talked about them not doing. It was either the pitching doing their job or the offense doing the job. And the offense has done very little this year as a combined unit to take over games. We all knew the problems with this Mets pitching staff when it comes to injuries, when it comes to not knowing who's their starter, going for 2 out of the 3 games of this series. This was a major issue going into this series, right? I said it before the series started against the Yankees. I wasn't very confident, even though they won the last 2 against the Brewers. And it was a nice series win against the Brewers because they were one of the hottest teams in baseball. But it was still yet to be determined if this offense is going to come together as a cohesive unit, especially the core guys, and finally break out together. That has been the case. This is the reason why the New York Mets have won the last 2 games against the Yankees, right? The pitching survived. Let's be honest. The pitching survived in game 1. Yesterday, it survived late in the innings in game 2. And today, we got Davinsky pitching as an opener. And I'm assuming Waddell is going to piggyback off of him. So we're getting 2 guys that shouldn't be pitching this, shouldn't be starting a game or be a part of this game unless it's a blowout, are going to be crucial to the beginning of the game. And you know the difference between Yankees and Met fans. And if you are a Yankee fan here, trust me, you know this is the truth. The difference between Met fans and Yankee fans is that Met fans have a lot of scar tissue. We've been through what the Yankees are going through for many years. The Yankees aren't used to losing 6 in a row, losing first place, being a couple of games over 500, and not playing well where there's questions all over. And now you're hearing, where is the leadership of Aaron Judge? Right? That is what Yankee fans are talking about. Have you listened to WFAN today? Over the last couple of, all you hear the Yankee fans panicking and screaming. You know why? Because they're not used to this. They have no scar tissue. They're not used to a team that doesn't play well. And it's not just a stretch anymore. This is a month where the Mets look like they have turned it around. But the scar tissues, all the bad years, all the bad losses, give you very rough skin. The Yankee fans do not have that. That is the difference between the Mets and the Yankees. That is why the Met fans know this is so much more bigger than the Subway Series. That's why when people talk about the offense and what we need to do, it's about stacking the W's. Because the Phillies haven't run away with nothing. They have not played well. As bad as the Mets have played, they weren't more than 2.5 games over behind the first place in the NL East. That is a fact. So we treaded water for about 3.5 weeks. We stayed within striking distance, and now we're playing better. We've won 4 in a row. We're going for the sweep of the Yankees. But more importantly, we're going for the 5th straight win for this New York Mets. That is why it's important. That is it, right? When the Yankees made it about Big Brother and made it about Juan Soto in May, the New York Mets in this series, going into this series, is worrying about, we got to win, and we got to do it by any means necessary. Mendoza has managed like he needed to win these games. Not because it was the Yankees, because you needed to win these games. They needed to show signs of life. Because, yes, we were happy about the Brewers series winning 2 out of 3. But there was still many issues, and there still is issues, let's be honest. But because we winning games, that's what matters, no matter who's it against. Again, The icing on the cake, the cherry on top of beating the Yankees. That's always fun. But the differences of the fan base is that the weak American League, the Yankees should make the playoff easily. They have an easy road to the playoffs, easy road in the playoffs, right? That was the talk. So the Yankees didn't have to worry about nothing except, haha, Met fans. That was what they worried about consistently for 3 months. They talked about Juan Soto when he struggled. That's all they cared about. But now they actually have to care about their team because their team is not in first place. They are spiraling out of control. They are a third-place team in a weak AL and in a weak AL East. The fact is, they are not used to this. When they can worry about everybody else but themselves, and now they have to worry about themselves, they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to react. Met fans, we're used to this stuff. We're so used to it. We kind of wipe off our shoulders like a bug. Oops. That's the difference. The fact that the New York Mets have played better offensively is why Met fans are pumped up. If this was a 2-1 win, yeah, it's nice in the moment because you win in the game. But we finally see the offense taking control over a game. It's beautiful to see, right? It is beautiful to see. And I'm just looking at something really quickly. I said this before the series started. What are the Mets have been good at this year, and what have the Yankees not been good at this year? Close games. The Mets have been very good, especially at home, in close games, regardless if it's a high-scoring game or not. This was yesterday really wasn't a close game, but it was 4-1, 5-2. It was a 3-run homer away from being a tie game, right? That's striking distance, in my opinion. The fact that the Mets tacked on runs, came back in the first game twice to win a ball game, and they've been hitting home runs, right? But they actually have been stacking hits together as well. And their home runs, we've talked about it. It's been solo home runs, right? It's been Juan Solo, right? That's what he's been doing. But in this series, we've been hitting 2-run homer, 3-run homer, grand slam. That is the difference, right? Is all our problems fixed because of these last 2 games? Absolutely not. But it's a great sign that this offense looks like they're finally a team. They're finally an offense working together. They are rolling right now. But it doesn't matter if you get shut out for 7 innings against Fried and look like you never played baseball before offensively. This has to be a situation where now the Mets did this against Fried last time as they got him out quite earlier than expected because they made the pitch count go up, but they were struggling so badly offensively that it didn't matter. If they do the same thing today, I'm very confident because this is the plan that it should be for the New York Mets. Regardless of who's in the lineup, I know people are talking about Brett Beatty. We'll get to that in a little bit. We'll get to the lineup. Their goal today, obviously the number one goal is to win, but their secondary goal during this game is to get Fried out as early as possible. Why? Have you seen the Yankees bullpen? They have nobody left, just like the Mets, by the way. But the good news is, even though you used Stanek and Diaz yesterday, you're probably going to have Brosnan available. You're probably going to have Reed Garrett available. So that's a good sign. You might even have Diaz available. There's a possibility of that. But get in Fried, even if you can get to him early, which is going to be hard. We all know that. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Even if you can't get to him, you need the pitchers of the New York Mets. If it's Davinsky, Wallen, who cares? Waller, or it doesn't matter. Keep this game close, and I'm confident the Mets will win. Because unless Max Fried's going to throw a complete game, which is, this can happen. We've seen Max Fried can do it. The fact that the New York Mets are on the verge and the possibility of sweeping the Yankees with, not even openers basically in this series other than Montas is amazing. But they got to continue to play like they've played over the last 4 games. The offense needs to take over these games. Their plan better be to work the counts against Fried, foul off some pitches. We need 7, 8 pitch at bats. Get that pitch count up, get him out of the game before the 6th inning. 6th inning or less. Because who are the Yankees going to? Who are they going to? Weaver. Yeah, bring him in. He'll give up a home run. They had to use somebody, they had to use guys that they didn't trust yesterday. Aaron Boone, right? It was only a 3-run deficit. He wasn't willing to go to his high leverage relievers because he was so nervous about today. Like, that is a losing mentality. We talked about that all the time with the Mets for years. When the Mets used their high leverage relievers in like a game like Friday, when they were down by 2, down by a couple of runs, they used their high leverage relievers because Mendoza was like, all right, if we're going to get back into this ball game, we got to keep it at this number for the Yankees. And that's what happened. And they found a way to come back. Yesterday, Aaron Boone, in a 3-run deficit at the time, didn't go to his high leverage relievers. Basically, you could say he gave up on the game because he didn't use anybody that he wanted to use and didn't care to use because of today. Now, you know what should happen today? The Mets should give Aaron Boone the finger and say, well, you cared about today. Well, we care about today too. So good news is the New York Mets is on the verge of sweeping the New York Yankees. And I do apologize when it comes to the lineup. I know that I kept Marte for DH for some reason. That is on me. Just so everybody knows, Nimmo is DHing, Marte is in left field. And again, when it comes to Brandon Nimmo, you gotta protect him. I don't know if he's feeling something. We know he's got a ton of injuries that we always worry about: neck, foot, this, that, everything. They're probably trying to keep Nimmo off his feet. Right? Marte will be okay. All right. He's not better than Brandon Nimmo. He's not the same defensive player he was a couple of years ago. But that's why you have Tyrone Taylor to control the gaps in center field. So all Marte has to worry about is his left field position and the line. That's it. So it's not that crazy. So I understand, and I do apologize about the lineup. Marte's in left field. Nimmo is DHing. And I understand people are talking about Beatty not being in the lineup. He's looking better at the plate. Mendoza is trying to get Vientos going. Dakota, am I going to apologize about Nimmo? No, because he did this last year. He had one hot-ass month. He's been red hot for 28 days, or let's say a month. He did this last year, right before the All-Star break. So until he does it for multiple months, no. I give him the credit now because we need him to. But go back to last year. He was red hot prior to the All-Star break, and then he was a shell of himself the rest of the year. So no, I'm not going to apologize yet. I give him credit for what he's doing right now. He's been a big part of the Mets' success. Or even though, people only talk about Juan Soto being hot and the Mets being terrible in June, yet Nimmo was red hot and we're losing. So, and now, we're getting back on track, hopefully. But I'm not apologizing for Brandon Nimmo because we've seen this story before. He gets red hot before the All-Star break, comes back in the All-Star break, and he doesn't look nothing like he did in his hottest month. So, do I give him a ton of credit? Absolutely. But even Mendoza is telling you by DH and Brandon Nimmo today. And I do apologize, guys. Brandon Nimmo is DHing, not playing left field. Marte's playing left field today. So I do apologize about the lineup mix-up there. But we've seen this story before. Mendoza is telling you that we got to keep Brandon Nimmo healthy. And DHing him is trying to keep him healthy. It keeps him off his feet for 2 days. Not playing. Now, he might come in late for defensive purposes. Oh, well, he probably won't because you'll lose your DH. But, keeping him off his feet today and then the off day tomorrow is a good idea. You keep the bat in the lineup while keeping him off his feet because they got to keep him healthy, right? Maybe the injuries took a toll on him last year, and after the All-Star break, it just spiraled out of control. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows? But we do know that Brandon Nimmo had one of his hottest months of the year last year, right before the All-Star break, about a month, like he's doing now. And then he didn't do it at all. So he's hot right now. It's a great sign. Hopefully we keep him healthy, because that's obviously key. Elvin, the lineup though is the lineup. Listen, the Mets are winning and scoring runs because their core is playing well. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil. They're all playing extremely well offensively right now. That is why they're winning. So, we can talk about Vientos. We can talk about Sanger as catcher. You can't play Torrens every day. Remember, he got beat up yesterday in that game. Couple of foul balls, got rocked in the head. Like, it was a rough game for Torrens. You got to keep him healthy, right? We're running out of catchers here. So you got to keep Torrens healthy. And that's what we're doing, right? I don't like Vientos batting 6 either explosive. I agree with you. But do you see what he's trying to do right here with Vientos? You got Nimmo in front of him. So with a hot Nimmo, you think they're going to try to, avoid pitching to Nimmo if they can. And they're going to go after Vientos. What Mendoza's probably hoping for is that, all right, you want to put men on to go after a struggling Vientos? Fine. Mendoza's hoping for a big hit from Mark Vientos. Vientos needs to get his confidence going. Now, I don't believe he's the hitter he was last year. I always thought the power would be there, but I never thought he would be a 260, 270 hitter. And I don't think he's an overall good offensive player. I think he's an idiot at the plate. I think he's stupid at the plate. He doesn't have a plan. And that always concerned me. And again, we always talk about this, and I always bring it up, and people still don't want to listen to it. It takes a full year to adjust from another team for a hitter. It takes an entire year. It always takes the following year for them to have a book on him and do different things of what he might be struggling at, even though they weren't throwing it the year before. It happens all the time. I say it all the time, and nobody wants to believe me. It takes other teams a whole year to get a book on a player, especially a hitter. And in Vientos' case, they seen in his very limited struggles last year that he had a hard time laying off that slider on the outside, off the plate. So why throw him a fastball when you could throw him that slider? He swings at it every single time. The same thing with Pete Alonso last year. They exploited his weakness, and they did not budge the whole year. Same thing with Vientos now. It's up to Vientos, just like Pete Alonso has adjusted and figured out a way and practiced and did whatever he had to do in the offseason to say, I am not letting that pitch beat me. If he throws it on a corner and it's a perfect pitch, so be it. But I'm not swinging at that pitch on the outside off the plate of a slider. Vientos has to learn to take your walks. I say this all the time. You got to take your walks. You don't need to. You can't hit a 500-foot, 5-run home run. You can't always look to hit the ball over the wall, even though that's his best at set. You got to get out of this. Take a couple of walks. It's going to help the team, and it might help you overall. The league has adjusted to Mark Vientos. If you notice, he is so worried about that slider outside that he has been late on the fastballs that he crushed last year. You know why? Because one, they weren't throwing him a lot of sliders last year because there wasn't a book on him. And nobody looks at the book from the minor leagues. I'm telling you that right now. Nobody does. Now they might have a little bit of a chart that says what he likes to swing at and all that stuff in the minors. But again, they're not looking at the minor league, the way he hits in the minor leagues. Nobody cares about that. They look at what he's doing at the majors, and there was no book on him. So they were going to throw whatever the pitcher that is on the mound that they feel comfortable with throwing. And a lot of the times, they were throwing him very limited amounts of breaking pitches, especially sliders. and they were throwing fastballs. So he was sitting on fastballs, not worrying about the slider because they weren't throwing them much. Now they're probably throwing a slider and the breaking stuff 90% of the time. And when you're throwing that many breaking pitches and sliders, the hitter is going to always be worried and be a little jumpy about those pitches. And when a fastball comes, he's been late. And it's mostly been late in his sweet spot, which is a high in the zone. His high in the zone bat speed is amazing. But when you're jumpy and you're a little fidgety at the plate, worrying about them breaking pitches, the fastball is going to beat you. Look at all the fastballs he's been fouling back or missing completely. He's late. And that is the problem with Mark Vientos right now. He has to adjust. If you don't adjust, you aren't a major leaguer. That's just how it goes. Major leaguers who stay in the majors adjust constantly. That's how they become good, great, or even average players. Average players has a role in this league and on teams. But because Vientos was supposed to be a big part of this power of this lineup, it is very disappointing. And it's frustrating. But Mendoza's trying to get him going because Vientos is a big part of this as of right now. So we'll see. And yeah, Beatty is hot right now. I agree with you guys. And again, I don't like this whole, and it's probably a matchup thing, right? With Beatty with left-handers, right? This has been a trend this year. He did it, he played him a couple of times when Beatty was doing well and played him against lefties, right? You got one of the best lefties in the game. That's probably why he's doing it, right? He's trying to get Beatty's not very good against left-handers, and against one of the best pitchers in baseball, left-handed, you might want to, Beatty will probably come up in a big spot in this game when a righty comes up. So I'm not too worried about it. He'll be in this game somehow, some way. You got to get Vientos going, guys. That's what Mendoza's trying to do. And against a lefty, a tough lefty, you hope that he can find it a little bit. That's what you hope. Because right before he got hurt, he started to hit a little bit. So it's there. It's just, can he harness what he needs to do to start being a better hitter at the plate? So we'll see. And look, the shocking thing is that the offense that we've killed the entire season, and we're over the 90-game mark now, finally look like they're actually playing as an offensive unit. They're finally coming. The core is finally hitting at the same time. This is what we were praying, hoping for, asking for, and they've done that. Right? And again, it's 4 games, not going crazy, but it's a good sign, right? They tacked on runs yesterday, which is something that they haven't done. They tacked on runs. They look like, and again, they've hit a lot of home runs, but they also hit a lot of home runs with runners on base. That's been the difference of this series so far. The Yankees have hit a ton of solo home runs. The Mets have hit multi-run home runs. Big difference. That's how you win a ball. That's how you've been winning the ball game in this series, and it's fine, right? Finally hit with runners in scoring position and runners on base. What a concept! They're doing that right now. So yeah, Dwayne, I do believe that now Davinsky's available and Waddell is available as well. So you got. I think Davinsky might pitch an inning, maybe 2, depending on how it goes. But Waddell is probably going to come in this game at some point after him. And then hopefully they can combine. They can give you 5 or 6 innings combined. That's the hope. And then you can have Brazovan available, Garrett available, Diaz available. I think Diaz will be available. So if you can get these guys combined 6 innings from Davinsky and Waddell, great. Then you can worry about the last 3 innings with the pitchers that we just talked about. So nobody's giving up on Mauricio, I know Dola. I know there's been the Mets have been having talks with the Pirates about Mitch Keller again, and there's been rumors that Ronnie Mauricio could be in the deal that could go the other way. Again, guys, you guys know I'm not pitching. I'm not a prospect hugger. I don't care what their potential is. I just don't care. Can Mauricio be another peak for Armstrong? Sure. the difference with the Pete Crow Armstrong trade with Javi Baez is that he's going to the Cubs that, that can spend money, that can be a playoff contender. That's the difference. Why it's frustrated. The Pirates, I don't care if Mauricio's on the Pirates. What is he really going to do with the Pirates? He's going to be under control for what, 5 more years? They're not going to trade him because he's going to be very cheap. And they're not going to trade him until probably his last arbitration year. So I don't care. If Mitch Keller can help this team, I do it. I'm not stopping this trade because they want Ronnie Mauricio. I don't care. Jeff McNeil is playing extremely well right now. Beatty has been good. So you technically can put Beatty at third base. Does Ronnie Mauricio probably has the highest top tier talent from the most other guys? Possibly. But we've seen this story before. I think he can be a 5-tool player, Mauricio. But again, we need to win now, guys. We got to stop this nonsense about, oh, well, what about the future? What about fuck the future? All right, you got a core guys that are around the 30-year-old mark, other than Soto. There's not much time with these guys. You probably got 2 or 3 more years of their primes where they're probably at their top level. You can't, just pass that by. You made your bet with Brendan Nimmo's contract, Lindor's contract. I think they're going to re-sign Alonso to a big deal. And now you have Juan Soto here and Jeff McNeil still there. Like, at some point, you got to start winning. Steve Cohen can't keep on talking about, well, we want to be like the East Coast Dodgers and talk about winning World Series, and you don't do enough to do it. Every year they have half-assed deadlines because of whatever the reason is. They half-assed deadlines. They can't do that this year. If you can get better now, and Mitch Keller has, 3 years left on his deal from the Pirates? So you're going to have a guy that is clearly a middle guy in the rotation, because I don't think Mitch Keller is a number 2 or a number 1, but he's definitely a number 3 and obviously a number 4. Now, Mitch Keller, he's, 3.4 ERA, I think, 3.4 ERA. Great. That's fine. That was, we need innings. He destroys the Mets every time he faces us. He's been good this year, has good numbers. So he would be a great addition to the middle of this rotation. But make no mistake about it, that shouldn't be the only move in this rotation. So if we find out, and when I was in Pittsburgh, there was a lot of conversation about Mitch Keller. Like, you guys know that when the Mets play a team, I like to listen to their sports talk radio. I always do. I don't care if it's Pittsburgh, the Rays. I don't care who it is. Because you always get the other side of things, not just from a Mets perspective. I like to look at it from other teams' perspective, other fans' perspective, other beat reporters' perspective. And luckily, I was listening to sports radio in Pittsburgh, and they had a couple of Pirate beat reporters on, and they were talking about the trade deadline, who they might, trade. Obviously, Paul Skeens ain't gonna be traded anytime soon. But it's guys like Mitch Keller, it's Brian Hayes, stuff like that, guys like that. And the Mets did come up of conversation was like, well, the Pirates like a lot of the Mets younger prospects in the Mauricios, the Jet Williams, guys like that, Gilberts, Clifford, guys like that. So if you can avoid trading a prospect pitcher, you do it. And again, we have a logjam, guys. How many times have we talked about this? About the logjam. There's too many guys in the same position. You got too many prospects that play the same position. It doesn't work. You can't play all these guys. Haven't we noticed just with Beatty and Acuna, they couldn't play. They couldn't give them enough at-bats. Somebody was trying to we gave these guys an opportunity to take a job. Beatty got the first opportunity. Acuna finally took it over, and then he failed. Then you got Mauricio and Vientos. You got Beatty at third baseman. Acuna can play second and third. You got too many guys that can play the same position. You can't keep these guys in the organization. You got to make a decision on some of them. Either they're going to help us in the present or the future, or you got to use them as assets. You can't let them die at the minor league level. It doesn't make sense. Their value goes down year after year. Because if you don't bring them up, if you don't keep them on your major league roster, then what do you think other teams are going to think? Why aren't they using them in the major leagues? What is it that they don't like that we don't see? That draws the value down. So that is the fact. The fact of the matter is, if any Mets fan is going to be annoyed that Mauricio could be in a deal for Mitch Keller, then look yourself in the mirror and question, do you want the Mets to win? Because can Mauricio help this team? Sure. Possibly. We still don't know. Is he going to be a 5-tool player? All signs show he could be. But we are sending him to the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he's going to be under control for 5 more years? You don't have to worry about Pittsburgh trading him over the next couple of seasons until he gets to his last arbitration year. The Pittsburgh Pirates aren't going to be competitive. So who cares if Mauricio goes batshit crazy? Who cares? What is he going to give the Pirates 5 more wins? Let him beat up on the teams in the Central. This is not PCA to the Cubs, because the Cubs always have potential of being playoff contenders. That's the difference with the PCA move over Ronnie Mauricio. So I like Ronnie Mauricio. I think the Mets really like Ronnie Mauricio. And I think this trade for Mitch Keller hasn't happened yet because I think the Mets are trying to avoid trading Ronnie Mauricio. I think they're trying to avoid trading Mauricio and maybe trying to give away somebody else. So that's what I think why it's taking long. I think Stearns, and again, this came out of nowhere. This didn't come from Mets beat reporters. This came from Pirates beat reporters that somebody retweeted, and it started to go out there. And I'm going to try to get one of the Pirates beat reporters that brought up this news. I'm trying to get him on one of the shows over the next week or two just to have an idea, because it might not happen, and it might happen. I don't know. But if you can get him now, it's great, because you get him, a couple of weeks before the trade deadline will be awesome. That means that's one less thing you have to worry about at the deadline. And obviously, if you trade for Mitch Keller, let's say in the next couple of days, you know what prospect you gave up, and you can evaluate what else you need and what else you're willing to give up. So you have a better idea. You have a head start on the trade deadline. So I think this hasn't happened yet because I don't think the Mets want to trade Ronnie Mauricio, but clearly they're talking about we need pitching. Ronnie Mauricio shouldn't stop you from getting that. I'm sorry. It is what it is. There will be Met fans that are pissed off, but it is what it is. The Javi Baez trade didn't make sense for that team when they traded PCA because the Mets weren't good enough that year. They weren't, I didn't even consider them a fringe playoff team. So that's why it was a stupid trade. Not that they went out and went to go get somebody that can help us, because Baez played good for the Mets, but that team was never good enough. That's the difference now. Mitch Keller can help this team get better than what they already are. They are a playoff contender. They are a championship contender. That's why you make those deals. You don't make those deals when you're hovering around 500 like the Mets were when they got Javi Baez. That trade made no sense because the Mets weren't good enough. You trade Mauricio because this team is good enough and you want to get them better. And Mitch Keller could do that. Now, I agree, David Stearns should try to negotiate a package that doesn't involve Ronnie Mauricio. I think he's trying to do that. I think that's why that trade has not happened yet. Maybe he's trying to, put somebody else in there that is not Mauricio. Because I think the Mets really like Mauricio. And David Stearns basically, his eyes light up when he talks about Mauricio. So if it ends up that the Mets might lose out on Mitch Keller because the Pirates don't want nobody else except for Mauricio, then Stearns better make that deal. You don't not make that deal. Because here's what's going to happen. If you're going to go for a pitcher that's Mitch Keller's caliber or better, you think it's going to cost less? They're going to still ask for the same guys. So there you go. The fact is, I don't care. And I said this about a week ago when me and Chris were talking about the trade deadline a little bit, that are you willing to trade anybody? Yes. And when he brought up Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio, Acuna, I don't care. Pick your poison. I think you should keep 2 and let 2 go to use in trades to get better. Now, it's up to Stearns to make the right choices, but at this point, who are you trusting? Do you trust Vientos, Beatty, Acuna, Mauricio? I'm not. So any options, I think you got to trade 2 out of the 4. Because it doesn't make sense to keep 3 of them. It does not at all. Make your decision. And it looks like Stearns is thinking about it. And make your decision. If 2 of these 4 guys are not traded to get better players in here, pitchers, bullpen arms, another hitter, who cares? 2 out of these 4 guys need to be traded prior to the deadline or during the deadline. Because if not, then I don't know what the Mets are doing here. Because clearly the Mets are trying to not trade their pitching prospects, which I understand. I don't care, but I understand. That means you have enough position players. You got Jet Williams, you got Acuna, Beatty, Mauricio, Vientos. You got all these guys, all these position players. Use them. There's no need to wait right here. Elvin, you could say Ronnie Mauricio is another Yordan Alvarez. He might be. But that Yordan Alvarez will be playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the Pirates won't trade him until he's on his last year of eligible arbitration. So that's 2-3 years down the line. I don't care about that. Ronnie Mauricio is not going to hurt my feelings for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Nor should you worry about Ronnie Mauricio on the Pittsburgh Pirates. If the Mets want him back when he turns into Yordan Alvarez, you trade back for him in a couple of years, right? You can get a quality arm where Mitch Keller is clearly a number 3 pitcher, which clearly the Mets kind of don't have, to be quite honest with you. Got a lot of 4s and 5s. And the committee just took the words out of my mouth. Mitch Keller is a proven MLB pitcher, right? This is why when people talk about Frankie Montas, is because you're getting a professional pitcher on the mound. You got somebody that you know what you're going to get from. You're not going to get, spectacular performances. But you're going to get a guy who gives you a quality start, who's going to keep your team in it to win a ball game. And that's what Montas is. He's a professional pitcher. Mitch Keller is a professional pitcher. Now, I think Keller is better than Montas and could probably throw gems every now and then. I think Mitch Keller at his best, peak performance, is probably a number 2, but he's definitely a number 3. That's what the Mets need here. They need professional guys that when they go to the mound, you know what you're going to get from them. Not always going to be a quality start. They're going to have blunders every now and then. Every pitcher does. But you know what you're going to get from them. The Mets don't have that enough. And if you think that Clay Holmes makes you confident, you're an idiot. David Peterson, I'm not sure about David Peterson yet. I like David Peterson. I think he has balls of steel. But that doesn't mean it's going to be good enough. You need quality pitchers. You need guys that you can go out there and be like, we got a professional pitcher on the mound. That is so important in today's game. We don't have a Paul Skeens, or at least we don't know that yet. Right? We don't have pitching prospects that are on the level of Paul Skeens. We might not. Maybe Sproat would be that. Maybe it would be Tong McLean. Who knows? But right now, they are not considered guys like that, because if they were, they would be up here. There's something about Tong, something about McLean, something about Sproat that Stearns avoided calling them up to make a spot start in this series against the Yankees. Yamid, you could say we are lucky you're not the GM, but that's fine. You don't have to believe it, but you're part of the problem. You are the prospect hugger. You are the prime example of why the Mets don't win. Because in 2022, I go back to this all the time. When you go get Vogelback, Naquin, and Ruff, and Givens in your bullpen, you went for the lowest possible guys on the market because you were afraid to trade top prospects. And this wasn't David Stearns. But when you went to get those guys and other teams got better players at the deadline, and how you lost was based on the fact that teams in your division, teams in your league did better, and you wonder why you didn't do well? When the Padres got Juan Soto, when JD Martinez didn't get traded because the Mets were worried about his back, even though the second half of that year, he was red hot for the Red Sox. The Red Sox almost got into a playoff spot because of that. Go back to last year. You can talk about evaluation year all you want. The Mets were showing you that they ended up being a potential playoff team. And, Jesse Winker was a solid solid trade. But you didn't do enough. We needed another starting pitcher. Everybody knew it. And you got Blackburn, who wasn't going to pitch in the playoffs for you. So how did that help? The fact that the Mets, continue to half-ass deadlines, and you wonder why the outcome ends up being a failed year, because if you don't win a World Series, it's a failed year, right? This isn't a year where it's all cute and gimmicks and grimace and Haktua and all that OMG nonsense from a year ago because nobody expected it. You're expected to be a playoff team. You expected to be a World Series contender. You don't sit around on your ass and worry about Ronnie Mauricio and what he can potentially be. If Mitch Keller can help you now more than Mauricio can, you trade him. I'm sorry. I'm not saying to trade 9 out of your top 10 prospects. I'm not saying that at all. But you got 4 guys. All of those guys play the same goddamn position. We've watched. People are complaining today that Brett Beatty's not playing over Mark Vientos. Why is that? Where are you playing Brett Beatty? If you play Brett Beatty, Vientos sits. If you play Brett Beatty at second, McNeil sits. How's that help the team? The Beatty-Acuna platoon did not work because when you were working on matchups and when Beatty was hot, Acuna played. When Acuna was hot, Beatty played. And then when Beatty sucked and got sent to the minors, Acuna had the job. He lost it. Boo-hoo for him. That's why he's back in the minors. He was a glorified pinch runner and defensive replacement. He's one of your top prospects, and that's how you treat him? So what does that tell you? One, do the Mets believe in Luisano Acuna? Or do they not want to lower his value just in case they need to use that asset in a trade? That's why. The fact of the matter is, if you're a fan that doesn't want to win, then I don't know what to tell you. Prospects shouldn't matter unless they're helping this team now. That's why I got frustrated when Tong could have came up, McLean could have came up, Sproat could have came up. Right? They're trying to avoid trading their pitching prospects. I understand that. But you can get Mitch Keller for Ronnie Mauricio. How is that a bad deal? Now, I'm not saying Mitch Keller's going to come in and be great for us. He can be a bust. But I'm not going to blame David Stearns for that trade. I'm going to blame Mitch Keller for not pitching well. Ronnie Mauricio can become a star. Absolutely. But he'll be a star for the Pittsburgh Pirates. If you're so concerned about Ronnie Mauricio, when the Pirates decide to trade for him, get him back. If he becomes Yordan Alvarez. Sorry, guys. I'm sick and tired of saying, what if? Yeah, Dolo, you know why you haven't heard about Acuna's numbers? Because he probably hasn't been good. He's never had any showing in the minor leagues. And everybody can talk about, the minor leagues don't matter. The Mets, his bat is not developed enough. We know we can run. We know we can play defense. We know that. That doesn't need changing. What needs to be changing is that with that speed, you can't strike out as much as he did. You can't be swinging for the fences when you're not a home run guy. You are a speed guy. Put the bat on the ball and let the speed do the damage. That's the problem with Luisano Acuna. He thinks he's a home run hitter. He thinks he's better than he is, and he's not working hard. And I talked about this in spring training. The Mets, remember, it took to the final day of roster completion and to put your roster out before the opening day. It took to the final hour to put Acuna on the roster. Why is that? Because the Mets don't trust him. That's why. They don't trust him yet. They think he's lackadaisical. Lindor had to speak to him, and he brought it up through the media, trying to wake up Acuna, that he gets lazy. He loses focus. He thinks he's better than he is. You're not a complete hitter yet. That's okay. We're not saying you should be right now. But your asset is your speed. You're not a power hitter. You're 15 or less home run guy. You need to be batting 260, 270, and work your way on base. You can't strike out all that much. We're watching Anthony Volpe, a guy who has tremendous amount of speed, should be stealing 40 bases a year. But Acuna reminds me of Anthony Volpe, a guy that has tremendous talent, has tremendous speed, but strikes out way too much, tries to hit home runs at every at-bat, and his speed is not a weapon because he doesn't get on base enough. That's the problem with Acuna. Well, Yamid, that doesn't mean we can't get an ace. Right now, the ace is probably not out there yet. Sometimes those top pitchers aren't going to become available probably for another 2 weeks. Everybody's still establishing what they're going to be in this market. So a guy like Mitch Keller, who can be in the middle of this rotation, which is needed, by the way, because I don't know when Kodai Senga is coming back. He got rocked in the minors. Doesn't anybody care about that? Everybody cared about Monta's numbers. Not that I care about the minor league numbers, but I don't trust Kodai Senga to be healthy, let alone pitch well. So there he is. The fact of the matter is, more prospects fail than become good to great major league players. I take my chances on the proven guy every single time because that's how you win. Right? It's okay for the Phillies to do it, the Braves to do it, the Dodgers to do it, the Padres to do it every year. They're the ones that always make the moves in the National League to get better. Why do the Mets have to half-ass it? They're the only ones that half-ass it, and then they wonder why they lose. Exactly, Dwayne. If you can get Keller now, because I'll tell you this right now, guys, if Stearns doesn't do it now, you think the price for Keller is going to get lower? It's going to get even more expensive because more teams are going to be looking for pitchers like that. If you can do it now, you might save your assets, more assets for other trades that might be needed or will be needed at the deadline. You know what? In 2 weeks, when more teams might be involved for Keller, it might be Mauricio and another top 20 prospect. Right now, it only might be Mauricio. What trade would you make? That's why you do it. Now, I do believe Stearns is trying to get Mauricio out of this deal. But it's clearly talked about enough that I think Stearns is willing to do it if need be. Because, again, if it gets closer to the deadline, Keller's going to be more expensive because pitching is a premium. Mitch Keller isn't the greatest pitcher in the world. He's probably not a top 2 pitcher, but he's definitely a number 3. And I think at his best, he can be a number 2 for a short time. But you don't make that trade or not make that trade because of Ronnie Mauricio. Mitch Keller will help this team more than Ronnie Mauricio. Because right now, I don't know what Ronnie Mauricio is going to be. So let's see how it goes. We got about 40 minutes until the game, guys. Mention that's the idea, right? You could probably get Alcantara for cheap, right? Maybe Stearns is working on that or trying to. You know, the Marlins might not be budging yet. Why would the Marlins trade Alcantara right now? They know there's going to be more suitors for him closer to the deadline, right? The Pirates are an idiot organization, so take advantage of it. The Marlins aren't a stupid organization. They know what they're doing. They always try to get as much back as possible for their top players. The Marlins aren't going to trade Alcantara now unless they get so much of an overpay. It makes more sense with Alcantara not having a great season to wait because more teams are going to be in on him because of his potential. Mitch Keller has been pitching well. So if you can capitalize as the Pirates are looking like they're going to do, on getting a possible really good prospect, they'll do it. That's the difference. Alcantara's value is very low right now. So it's stupid for the Marlins to go to trade him now with his lowest value. Not saying that if Alcantara pitches the same way, it doesn't matter, because when the trade deadline comes, you're going to find a desperate team. And you might get more just because of that. In this situation, the Mets, quote unquote, they're kind of desperate. But right now, when you do that, you're kind of negotiating with the Pirates, with most likely no other team really worrying about that right now. So you do it. And again, I think this hasn't happened yet because Mauricio is a favorite of Stearns and the Mets, that they don't want to trade him. But again, if David Stearns look, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I've killed David Stearns here. I don't trust him during his deadline. I don't think he's going to make the big moves. If he trades Ronnie Mauricio for Mitch Keller, all bets are off. I'll give Stearns a ton of credit bringing in a proven pitcher for a not established prospect yet. That gives me a little bit more confidence in David Stearns going towards the trade deadline, because that means he's willing to be a little uncomfortable, because you have to be a little uncomfortable to get better at the deadline. Do you think all these other teams that I just spoke about a few minutes ago are comfortable with trading these guys? No. But at the end of the day, are these guys going to help you get better now that you currently have, or the guys that you trade for are going to help you now? Because those teams do it, the Mets don't. So if this happens, and now, great, if David Stearns finds a way to not trade Mauricio, and let's say trades, I don't know, let's say he does trade Gilbert or Jet Williams, which I'd rather hold Jet Williams for a bigger package, for a better player. But let's say it's Gilbert, and he finds a way to keep Mauricio. Great. You still get a middle rotation guy that can pitch like a number 2, because he's shown that in his career, but definitely a number 3. He will help this rotation. And Ronnie Mauricio impacted how many games already this year? Maybe 2. And I know he has a lot of potential, but I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about potential. We need proof. We need a guy that can help us now. Well, mention, why not trade Mauricio? Why not? Danger, I have not did an assessment on the Italian pitcher that the Mets signed internationally. I don't know yet. I got to look. I heard he has good stuff, but what the hell do I know? I got to read up on it. I haven't. I seen it, and I was like, huh. But again, yeah, Dolo, okay. Mauricio stretched that thing onto a double. Okay. Lindor did the same thing yesterday. Right? Because he has speed. Okay, so are we not going to talk about the base running blunder? Is that okay? Because that was a stupid base running mistake in game 1. Right? Don't bring up, oh, well, he busted out of the box. Great. But he also made a stupid play that was first and second with Nimmo coming up. And he ran out of the inning. So that's a dumb play, which was a very aggressive play. But that was a stupid play. That is why you don't know what he's going to be yet. He makes a lot of dumb. He still doesn't have a plan at the plate. He still swings at everything. He is a free swinger, and that's fine. But again, I'm not stopping to make this team better because Ronnie Mauricio plays twice a week. Like, I'm not. I'm sorry. If he takes over a position like third base and he's better than Vientos, better than Beatty, fine. But he sits on the bench more often than not. So it is what it is. Scully, that's a possibility as well. But overall, guys, the fact that David Stearns is trying to be aggressive earlier at the deadline tells me that he might be aggressive in this deadline. Again, you don't have to trade 8 out of your 10 top prospects. You can trade 3 or 4 of them and still have a good farm system. If you can avoid trading your pitching prospects, which every GM tries not to do, if you can get rid of a Gilbert, a Mauricio, or even an Acuna, and you can find a way to get 2 or 3 guys in here to help this team, you do it. Mauricio is a rally starter. Okay, he did it for what? Okay, he might be. He's got to be more consistent. We don't have time to wait for. Again, this is why we have the minor leagues. We don't have the major leagues to see if these guys can be potential, right? You develop in the minor leagues. You're supposed to be ready to go at the major league level. If you're not, you're wasting everybody's time. None of these guys are established. We're questioning Mark Vientos. Beatty is like, okay. Acuna is back in the minor leagues because he can't hit. Mauricio still swings at everything. Does he have, I think he has the most potential out of all of these guys I just mentioned? Yes. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, danger. Go back to all my shows. I love Ronnie Mauricio. I do. But that's not going to stop me from getting something we need more. If this if this core hits the way they're supposed to, Ronnie Mauricio shouldn't be an issue. The reason why everybody's goo gaga for Ronnie Mauricio, because this offense has sucked. So they're looking for any type of potential and help. That's a potential bat. That's why. But if this offense can score 5 to 6 runs per game, which they should have been doing all year, we don't care about Ronnie Mauricio. We're talking about Vientos and Beatty and Torrens and this guy and that guy because the core of this offense sucked this year. If the core does their job, Mauricio isn't a conversation about why we need him on this team. That's it. Hold on, guys. Let's see. Let's see. How is Avi doing? Avi doing is pretty good. Sophomore slump. Is it a sophomore slump? Sure. But again, do you want to play Vientos every day and sit Beatty on the bench? No. Everybody wanted Beatty to play today. But you don't know if it's a sophomore slump if you don't play him. And that's the other thing. So, again, this is where we are. We're talking about Brett Beatty over Mark Vientos when 95% of this Met fan base wanted Brett Beatty off this team a month ago. You see how that changes? So we don't have a third baseman. McNeil is technically our second baseman. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a third base spot that nobody has taken advantage of, including Ronnie Mauricio, by the way. Because if Mauricio was hitting the way everybody assumes he's going to hit, he would be playing third base every day. But he's not. Because he's not doing what he should be doing. Not saying that he can't. But again, if you want to hold on to your prospects and find out that the Mets don't do what they need to do at the deadline because you're so worried about prospects and their potential, congratulations. You'll have another failed season because this team will not get better if you don't get better pitching. How do you get better pitching? You get it at the deadline. You know how many teams need pitching at the deadline? All of them. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to be fucking expensive. You got to make moves. Do it. If you can get Mitch Keller for probably less now than what you might do at 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, you do it. And I'm not going to cry a river for Ronnie Mauricio. I am not. Sorry, I'm just not. Because if Ronnie Mauricio shouldn't make or break this team. That's why you have your core that you paid all this money to that should be the reason why you're winning that can make or break a season, not Ronnie Mauricio. Can he be a helpful piece? Sure. But Mauricio had opportunities over the last couple of weeks. Not saying that it's enough time, but I'm not stopping a move because of Ronnie Mauricio. As much as I like him, he is not preventing me from making this team better. Because nobody can tell me that Mitch Keller wouldn't be more important to this pitching staff than Ronnie Mauricio to this lineup. You are absolutely out of your mind. But we shall see. Mets-Yankees, Game 3 of the Subway Series. Mets looking for the sweep of that team in the Bronx. Chris Davinsky, the opener for the Mets today against one of the best pitchers in baseball, Max Fried. Can the Mets put the final nail in the coffin and give that 7th game losing streak going for the New York Yankees? With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel and on X. I will be doing a post game after the show. I set it up for 4 o'clock. It will be redirecting you right after this stream to the post game stream. Hit that like button early, guys. The more likes we get before the stream, the more likely it will be up at the top of the list for more people to see this type of content. Let's beat those Yankees, but more importantly, let's get another win, because that's the most important thing. With that said, have a good day, guys. Enjoy the game. Let's go Mets and beat those Yankees, guys. Have a good day.
Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats, where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so